and it's not going anywhere. It's one of the heavy duty zip ties, and because of where it's coming through the hole there, and can't really see it at the top, but when it's out, you can see it pretty clearly. It's not going anywhere. Well, I've been kind of lazy up to this point, and I haven't taken the cover off the other side, which I think I'm going to have to do in order to make this easy. So what I did last night, since I couldn't get it up on my lift, and it was too dark to come out and put the jack underneath, ta-da, I just kind of dry fitted in there and screwed the clevis on at the bottom without tightening it down and without putting it on the arm, the cantilever arm. But that's dry fit what she looks like. I have to put the polyurethane bushings in there, and then I'm going to get into fitting it. So I'm getting ready to put the clevis on the bottom of the air cylinder. I'm going to use, even though the tube is red, I'm going to use some blue Loctite on there. Could probably use red, but I don't have any. Twist that all the way up, lock it on, tighten down the jam nut, and that shouldn't go anywhere. Forgive all the mess on my table. I'm taking apart the motor and rebuilding it for my race bike over there. Got to take the cases all the way apart and get all the way down the bottom so I can look at the transmission. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Getting back to it. All right, so in order to get this thing in, I had to grind a little bit of the mount right there. So there's actually a metal plate that's welded to the frame that the mount for the shock tower is welded to. So there's a lot of meat there. There was a weld bead that I just grinded down smooth to give this some room to rock back and forth a little bit more, because it wouldn't line up. The clevis wouldn't line up with the pivot joint there. So got it all back together. Got the dog bones back on, which I had to finagle up and down because the bolts are so long. You have to work with a little bit to get past the frame rail. So on the jack, I would take it up and down a little bit here and there just to be able to get the clearance I needed to get the bolt in, push it all the way through, and then tighten it up. So this is with, like, I don't know, 4 inches up or something like that. And you see it's only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches on the rod. So I'm gonna let it down here off the jack and get that board out of the way. And I can't let it all the way down because it'll fall. And that's before the jack comes from under the bike. And then you see here how low it is in the back. And it'll actually go lower than that, but I'm not going to do that so that I don't drop the bike onto the kickstand on the other side. And that's pretty much fully compressed. Looks good. This is actually more the look I was going for. I didn't like the stance with just the air cylinder on there with the stock dog bones. So I put my Pacific Coast Star lowering links on with another 2¼ inch drop. And you see how that has the wheel sitting in the fender now. And the pipes are pretty far back. And so once the bags are on, I'll probably have to keep it a little higher off the ground, because I have a feeling that left side pipe, once I put it on, is gonna be a little close to the ground. But I'm probably gonna put a center stand, electronic center kickstand on it, or center stand on it, to have it sit flat anyway. But yeah, that's definitely more the stance I was going for when it stopped, and I'll be able to pull it pretty far up off the ground. Oh man, I just took the air up to the power. All right, all. We are coming toward the end of the project for this rear air ride. I just wanted to shoot a slightly longer video that shows where everything went, not the specifics necessarily. I'll do a couple of video clips and there'll be a bunch of stills. So we're on the left side of the bike, as you can see, with all the covers off, seat off. Here is the switch. It is a two-way switch, up for up, down for down. It's hidden behind this cover that covers the throttle wheel. Wiring comes up along the side of the frame. The power for the switch goes across to the other side of the bike here. The rest of the wiring drops down. The green wire is for up, the yellow wire is for down, the brown wire is actually the ground. I just used brown because I ran out of black, and it's all tied in down here with wire loom. Underneath that chrome cover on the bottom left, which I believe had the AIS at one point in time. I don't really know because this space was empty when I got the bike. They had removed the AIS already. So underneath this cover here was a nice space that allowed me to get the pump in, the dump valve in, and the air lines. So here's the air line coming up for the pump, goes into a T here, which goes across and under the seat into the air cylinder, and then here's the air line coming down to the dump valve. I'm probably going to put a baffle or just a cap with a small hole drilled in it for the dump valve, because right now this hole is wide open, and when you hit down it just drops, and you'll see when I do the test video how quickly it goes down, and I don't really like that. I want it to go down a lot slower. Coming over to the other side of the bike, obviously it's taken apart, so it's a bit of a mess. The side cover is off where the battery would normally go, so I could access and get into the air cylinder. So forgive all the wires hanging here, all my grounds here, all my things coming to power here. So you see the air cylinder is there, mounted up nicely. You'll see in the stills that I shot, and maybe even a video clip, there was a tab there. There's a plate welded to the frame that the shock mount is welded to. So there's two things welded there. The cylinder was tapping the bottom of the bead and wouldn't drop back far enough for me to line up with the pivot down there. So I did have to go in there with a grinder and a Zerk wheel and just smooth that out a little bit in order to get it to fit. You can see it goes down to the clevis onto the pivot. And when I mounted it, I didn't like the ride height so much. So I have these Pacific Coast Cruisers lowering brackets, and I put those on. Thankfully, with the right tools for the right job, swapping out the stock dog bones to these lowering links only took about 10 minutes, but I have them down on their lowest setting, which is about a 2¼ inch drop, so it does have the height that I want. But it tucked in there really nicely and clean. So when I come back, I will have this cover put back on with the battery in place, and I will do a test to show you how it works. All right, this is a test of the air ride system without the baffle in it. Forgive all this wiring and stuff here. All I have it hooked up to is just the pump and the dump valve. It's the only thing that's hooked to power right now, so all these wires and whatnot here are very ugly. But I'm just gonna show you what it goes up and down like without a baffle of any sort in the dump valve to slow it down. So I'll go ahead and activate the switch to take it up. So it goes up pretty well. But without the baffle in it, and I hit it in that dump valve, it just dropped very, very quickly. So I'm going to put a cap, drill a small hole in it for an exhaust, and see how it goes after that. For an exhaust baffle for that dump valve, I'm basically just using a 1/4 inch MTP cap or plug. This is a Allen head, basically a cap, or a countersunk plug, and this is just a regular old cap. If I use the cap, I'll drill a hole in the middle. That'll be my exhaust port. Problem is, where I have the dump valve mounted, this cap itself doesn't screw into the dump valve enough to give me good clearance at the bottom inside that plastic area where it's located. I may end up doing this, drill a hole right there through the middle of the Allen head slot, probably only a 1/8 inch or so, and then screw that in, and we'll see where we go from there. I'll try both and see which one works the best. All right, so test of what the bike will look like going up and down. I only have one of the bags on. I don't have both on, but I want you to see it from this side. One, because that bag is on, but two, this is where the switch is. So right now it's raised up for probably riding height, and then when I get to wherever I want to go and I want to look, drops down. Unfortunately, putting the baffle in there for an exhaust didn't let it go down any slower. Then the pump will kick in. It doesn't pump up terribly fast, but it's not a rush either. And then there actually is some cushion in it, so going down the road, it'll have some cushion. It won't be like riding a rigid. There she goes.